Thank you, Mr. Chairman. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth are repeatedly dragging the U.S. military across both legal and moral lines. Trump and Hegseth have plunged us into an illegal war with Iran, where a U.S. airstrike appears to have killed 150 school children. And it's not just in Iran. Under Trump and Hegseth, the military fired on civilians and shipwrecked survivors in the Caribbean. And now Secretary Hegseth is threatening to give, quote, no quarter to adversaries. This is not who we are. Our enemies might not care about civilian casualties, but the U.S. military always has. And that is why Secretary Hegseth's attacks on the guardrails that prevent civilian harm and civilian casualties is so dangerous. So take the JAGs, now more than ever. We need strong, independent military lawyers. But there are serious concerns that JAGs cannot give honest legal advice right now. So, General Guillot, let me ask you, have you seen any evidence of the JAG Corps being sidelined, whether at Northcom or elsewhere in the department?
Senator, I've not seen any evidence of the JAGs being sidelined in our command. I'll point out that our JAG is included in all of our battle rhythm meetings, and in fact, our JAG is sitting behind me right now.
Yeah, and I just want you to know, I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear it's not happening in your command, but we know that this is a problem across the department. Secretary Hegseth fired TJAGs because he thought they were, quote, roadblocks, and he installed his personal lawyer to retrain military lawyers to water down constraints. He reassigned hundreds of JAGs to work on Trump's radical immigration agenda, and last week the secretary said he's starting a, quote, ruthless overhaul of the JAG system. Look, for decades, military lawyers have worked side by side with officers to make sure that strikes are lawful and that they minimize civilian casualties. That doesn't make us weaker. It saves innocent lives and it prevents fueling terrorism. But Secretary Hegseth has blamed JAGs for what he calls, quote, stupid rules of engagement. So, General Donovan, let me ask you, if a JAG or a civilian harm advisor says to distinguish between a military base and an elementary school and an airstrike, is that a stupid rule of engagement?
No, Senator.
Yeah. Look, JAGs can't give their best advice if they fear losing their job just for raising legal concerns with an operation. One way we protect the integrity of legal advice in our military is by creating for-cause removal protections for our JAGs. Commanders also need to be able to speak up when they're being asked to break the law. General Donovan, your predecessor was reportedly ousted because he raised concerns about the legality of the Caribbean boat strikes. Will you commit to informing this committee if Southcom is directed to do something that you or your JAG thinks may be illegal?
Senator, my first obligation, if I face what I believe is an unlawful or illegal order, is to obviously seek legal counsel, discuss that with my higher headquarters, and then move forward and not carry out an illegal order.
Yeah, maybe you didn't hear my question. My question was, will you commit to informing this committee if Southcom is directed to do something that you or your JAG thinks is illegal?
If I reported that to this committee, Senator, it would be through my chain of command.
But you would make sure that we got the information?
I would report to my chain of command.
And you would not take any responsibility for making sure we got that information? You do realize we have oversight responsibilities here?
Senator, I would work that information through my chain of command.
All right, that's a very concerning answer here. Look, what's happening right now is very dangerous. We need our nonpartisan military leaders to double down on their commitment to following the law and speaking up when they are asked to break it. And Congress needs to be able to step in and rein in this lawless commander-in-chief and his self-styled Secretary of War. Thank you.
A quiet but consequential clash over military accountability reveals a deeper struggle between lawful command and political pressure. This exchange underscores a growing tension between civilian oversight and military chain-of-command norms, particularly when legal concerns may conflict with executive priorities. The hesitation to commit to direct transparency with Congress highlights how institutional safeguards, like independent military legal counsel, can be tested when leadership signals a willingness to reinterpret or sideline long-standing rules of engagement. At stake is not just internal process, but whether the systems designed to prevent unlawful military action remain resilient under political strain. When legal accountability depends on internal channels, is congressional oversight strong enough to catch potential abuses, or does it arrive too late?